Good morning. Let us discuss about 29th May 2015 newspaper. The first important article is related to the cancer. There are previous questions on this issue. On science and technology front, what are carcinogens and their relevance to health is one question which was asked previously. And your prelims, which of the following are the carcinogens, and they gave the list of substances. In that context, most of the cases, all of the above will be the answer. Most of the cases. So now let us see this particular study. In India, the cancer is on rise because of our increased exposure to the cancer and changing lifestyles and pollution, and all these factors are raising the cancer incidence in the country. But the positive point is the mortality related to the cancer is coming down. It means the number of deaths are coming down related to the cancer. The reason it shows that the increased early diagnosis and better treatment options which are available to the people. In this context, the most common cancer is mouth cancer. Especially in North India, we have this eating of betel nut and other pan parag and tobacco products that is increasing the mouth cancer. And next, women, it is the breast cancer. Now, many of the early screening options are available for the breast cancer, including mammography. So next is the cervical cancer. Both of these are preventable. So not preventable, at least early diagnosis is possible to them. And next, in India, the men with prostate cancer are growing. So mouth cancer can come up at relatively young age, but prostate cancer is mostly a old age disease. So prostate cancer is the rapid rising cancer among the men. So, but what is the cancer which is taking highest number of lives in India? That is lung cancer. So it means the lung cancer, mouth cancer, both of them one or the other way are related to tobacco. So hope government brings in the statutory warnings and pictorial warnings on cigarette packets. So recently I took my father also to the hospital, and I can see small blocks in his blood vessels. So thanks to tobacco. Next is the Romilla Thappar's article. So it is related to the education system in India. So all the experts are for free education, liberal education, which is thought-provoking. So what she says is, the objective of the education, it is logical and analytical thinking. So if you want to develop the knowledge, you have to question the existing knowledge. That's how the knowledge has evolved. It means a kind of critical reasoning is necessary in the young generation for the knowledge to progress and innovation to happen. Now every disciplinary, it has its own charm, and it needs its own thinking, its own reasoning and questioning. Public administration, sociology, it has its own, requires its own thinking, reasoning and debating and questioning. Now this is the only way for the spread of the knowledge and evolution of the knowledge. Now on the other hand, if the higher education has to be developed, then the foundation of the schooling has to be strong. In civil services preparation, I see this very regularly. Many of the students, they are very smart and intelligent, but their foundational skills are very weak. Especially with regard to the language skills, they are very, very poor. So poor foundational skills, it deters them towards the quality higher education. So in India, there is an anomaly from the Jawaharlal Nehru days. So the focus is more on higher education, and primary and secondary education are always neglected. Now much of the tragedy is the primary education is more and more moving into the private hands. And the budget, the government is spending around 3% of GDP, which is lowest, which shows that the priorities of the government are somewhere else, not the education. If you take Japan in the post-World War scenario for its development, what it did is it focused all its budgets on education. Without education, there can't be development. The governments have to understand this. So the shift from primary education is one of the anomaly. So we have to focus on primary education, and then the human resources can be drifted into higher education. So this is a continuum. Now the next point is this. At the higher education level, the Human Resources Ministry choice-based, credit-based choice system, this particular new system that is coming up, what it is doing is, it is planning for standardization. Nothing but Tayloristic theories or Taylorism of public administration is brought into education too. So the standardization, it means any university you go, wherever you go, the same curriculum, same subject, the same way of teaching. And the second thing is centralization. So previously universities determined what to teach, how to teach, and faculties had the necessary freedoms. Now at a central place they will decide the curriculum as like CBSE or something, and they will impose it on the universities. What the argument of the government is, it increases mobility, because a student from Andhra Pradesh can go to Assam or can study over there. A student from Assam come to Delhi and can study in Delhi. So this mobility of the students will increase, that's for sure. But however, many of the universities teach many of the subjects in regional languages. How about them? And next is, how we can implement the reservation system, that is what is the second major problem. So along with these problems, the most important thing is, in standardization and centralization, there is something called as a mechanization of the education system. This mechanization is going to kill the innovation. So it is going to bring an alienation in the faculty. Mechanization or assembly line setup of education. What is the difference between manufacturing of a car and a teaching in an industry? A worker in the car industry routinely does the same function. A teacher also does the same function. It is mechanization of the education, routinization of the education, standardization of the education, whatever you may call it as. It ultimately leads to alienation of the faculty from his own subject and from his own work. So in this process, the quality of the public education system is going to decrease. Ultimately, then the private education, people start shifting towards the private universities, which are already coming up. So it means the public education and private universities and private universities, they have a fundamental difference. The public university is all about access and equity, improving the educational access and providing them at affordable cost or with no cost to all the people in the country. Obviously, the affordability is going to decrease with private education, and access is going to be limited based on the financial criteria. So universality of the higher education cannot be achieved in the country. So this is what are the dangerous factors which are coming up on the education. However, if I see, there are certain people also recommending the government's actions. One of the person is Sam Pitroda. He is the one who has recommended for this kind of standardization to increase the employability of the Indian students. So these are the factors which we see. Now the mean way is this, why can't we have both the systems? Certain colleges, kind of tertiary colleges can be created, which will run this standardized curriculum, and innovation centers and universities of excellence can run simultaneously. Something kind of this have to be thought out. And next is post office. This is the article which is very close to me. Now if you take the post office, now the first thing is, for each and every government program, the banks are the sources. Public sector banks, all these are the delivery channels of all the governmental programs. And most of the PSBs are given target-based approaches. So whenever a new government program is launched in the name of financial inclusion or inclusive growth or pension scheme, anything, the risk comes onto the public sector banks. Now the core functions of a bank is to accept the deposits and to lend to the people. But they are been deviating from these core functions and performing the functions of the government. Now the banks themselves are facing a huge trouble from the competition. The foreign and private banks, they are giving a huge trouble to the banks. So it means in this critical time, the public sector banks deviating from its customer management are serving its customers, serving the goals of the government. It's going to decrease their opportunity cost. Increase their opportunity cost, I'm sorry. In this context, let us see What are the alternatives we can explore where the capacities are underutilized? Take the post office. So if you go any village in the remotest part of India, you can have the post office. The network of the post office is almost 10 to 12 times higher than the banking network in India, including all the banks together. So that's why there are 2 points we need to analyze. One is access, next one is capacities. The accessibility of the post office, it is there throughout India, the network. So it means it have a ways better than banks with regard to the access. Capacities, with regard to the delivery of payments of MG Narega. And next is operationalization of the post office savings scheme. There are some capacities already created with handling of money in the post offices. But they may not function as a pure banks. But however, we can build these capacities over a period of time in post offices. Now, this particular change of post office is not only a phenomenon of India. Across the world, the post offices have transformed themselves as per the changing situations. Now, even post offices in this digital world, they are becoming irrelevant with regard to their traditional functions. Now, in this case, if you take UK, that is Royal Mail of UK, already transformed itself into banking operations, and also it has increased its presence in internet and other amenities, providing telephone connections and internet and other amenities. So it means they are redefining their relevance. So in India, they can redefine their relevance with regard to the delivery of social sector programs. This is one important point, using the existing networks. Next is the China. So this Narayan's article, because most of these points what the Narayan talked about, we discussed them. Now the Prime Minister Modi visited China, and last year Mr. Xi Jinping, he also visited India. Now, but however, generally the long gestation period exists within the foreign affairs to take or to see the real fruits. In spite of this, if you see the strategic engagement and economic engagement, mostly we can see economic engagement becoming stronger with China, but not the strategic engagement. So we have almost $22 billion worth of deals closed with China. On strategic engagement, the China is non-committal on many issues, or if it is just diplomatic on those issues. Silent or non-committal it is. Border question, just maintaining the peace and tranquility at the border while waiting for the final solution. And if you talk to UN Security Council membership for India, it is just inviting the greater role for India in the global affairs or on the world forums. But it does not mean, it did not specifically talk about UN Security Council. And the third thing is, with regard to the nuclear export controls, so no guarantees are being given at. And next is on global front, terrorism front. If you see Salahuddin, who is United Jihadist Council, the chairman of this guy, we wanted to include them in global terrorist, but China is not supporting the India's effort on this front. Now, these are the things on the strategic front. If we move further, so how can we handle that? That there are two more dangers coming up. The India's significance is decreasing with Afghanistan, with the change in regime over there, it is clearly visible. And the second thing is, China-Pakistan economic corridor through POK, it is very much posing questions to our sovereignty and security. Now, in these two issues, the India has to be more wary of China. So now, how can we gain our strategic limits in this, our strategic inputs in this? The first thing is this. So East Asia, it is also facing a similar problem with the China's growing might. So India can deepen its engagement with East Asia. simultaneously increasing the levels of talk and engagement with China. This is one thing which we need to do. Now India has to bring in its Act East policy much stronger. That's what Narayanan says. And next is activist neighborhood policy. It has to be much realistic. And with regard to the Pakistan on the activist neighborhood policy, the confusion which is existing from the previous regime, it is still continuing. This is what is the opinion expressed by Suhasini either, and Narayan also expresses this similar opinion. Next, endemic discrimination, especially against the minorities, in particular against the Muslims. There is an endemic discrimination which is going on. Last week article we talked about Gujarat, the tale of two cities, where ghettoization of Muslims is increasing. And the second thing is, where there is institutional discrimination is growing against the Muslims in Gujarat. That's what is the article talked about. Now this article talks about the Muslims and their discrimination in Mumbai, especially with regard to the housing sector and also with regard to the employment opportunities. Now in this context we can revisit the Rajendra Sachar Committee report. What it has said is Equal Opportunities Commission has to be appointed. So this Equal Opportunities Commission can be appointed, but last government took some steps but did not move forward. And second thing is, with regard to private property and cooperative societies, controlling them, making them to provide access to the people, everyone, it is also legally a bit tricky subject. Because Supreme Court itself has said in Zoroastrian Cooperative Housing Society Limited case that under the right of the people to form associations, so we cannot force this particular I'm giving houses to the people away from the group which they want to give. Next is, with regard to Bangladesh trip, Mamata Banerjee is going to accompany the Prime Minister, and also India is going to establish some IT infrastructure which can help in investigative mechanisms. So modernize the law enforcement machinery in Bangladesh. Now it means that Teesta Water Treaty is on the way with regard to Bangladesh. Now last 2011 itself the Teesta Water Treaty is about to be closed, but Mamata Banerjee opposed to that, saying it is against West Bengal interests. Now the things are moving forward on this front. Now this is about the morale of the Indian Information Service officers. More and more defense people, they are coming to take up the positions in the Prasar Bharati. So recently with regard to DD Kisan channel, so a person especially from Air Force, he was appointed as the chief, that is Mr. Mukherjee. So it is demoralizing the Indian Information Service officers, and that's not of much importance. With regard to Sri Lanka, now there is a Oakland Institute, a think tank conducted the study. What it says is, the existing regime is reluctant to carry demilitarization of northern and eastern provinces. And second thing is, release of political prisoners and giving an account of them is one thing which is a major irritant. Next is, the many of the lands there is colonization are building the houses of Tamils, houses of Sinhalese, or Sinhalese migration to the Tamil in populated areas. It is still continuing. And next is war crimes and human rights violations. These are the major hurdles towards the reconciliation of Sirisena government. These are being discussed by the Oakland Institute. And another thing is, the armed forces are still entrusted with responsibility of maintenance of public order. It means the police powers, which has been called as, it is been handed over to the army, which is a part of the militarization of this particular territory. So there is no complete devolution of the powers. So ultimately, the success or else reconciliation involves with the proper devolution of the functions to the Tamil region. A true federation will be a solution to the Sri Lankan problem. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.